up, everybody? And thank you so much for tuning in. So today I'm excited to once again have one of my favorite authors, RJ Barker, joining me. RJ, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing really well. I'm in my spooky room of death. I don't know how much your viewers can see of all the dead things on the wall everywhere, but they are. We've just been. I've just been stripping basically. If you haven't been taking my, because it was too hot, taking my jumper off. So as you can tell, I'm quite relaxed.
You are now. Yeah,
right now. Yeah,
it's been a really interesting off-camera couple of minutes. Yeah, and for anybody who can't quite tell what's going on in this room, just follow RJ on social media because he takes pictures all the time in this room, and it's just amazing. I love when he posts pictures in there just to see what's next.
Yeah, there's a lot more antlers to go up at the moment because we got given a job lot. So as people, someone just turned up and said, "Do you want these?" Yes, obviously.
Clearly, antlers, bring it.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what started the whole antler fascination?
I can actually tell you exactly. In the UK, we have a comic called 2000 AD, and there was a strip written by Pat Mills called Slain, which probably don't say like that because it's Irish, but might be Sloiny. I'm not sure. However I say it, I'm saying it wrong, and I'm sure there'll be people who speak Irish properly who will correct me. Thank you. I need it corrected. And the bad guy was a Droon Lord called Slaufeg, and he had other Droon Lords that followed him, and there was a picture of this thing on the back of a horse, and it had like a mask that was covered in fur with these massive antlers. And I just remember thinking that is the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life when I was about 15 or 16. And it's just stuck in my head. And also we had Robin Hood in the UK, and Herne the Hunter used to sort of appear from the mist, and he had like these massive antlers, and that was another thing that was just like, wow, that is so cool. And I think it's just stuck in my head from those things. And of course it's a fertility symbol, and it has all these sort of slightly pagan connotations and mythic connotations that I like, so I'm a bit fascinated by antlers. But I don't think there are antlers in the new book. I've failed there. But I've got to do the first edit, so now I've thought about that. I'll put some in on the way through.
Put it right.
Yeah.
Just get in there. Yeah, because I was curious because you've got like, I mean, I think like some hunters would be like jealous of the amount of antlers that you have.
Yeah, but I don't think they would be once they got up close to the stuff that's in my
Probably
house.
not.
It's all rubbish. It's all really badly done, and that's why we like it. It's all like everything. There's nothing new. There's nothing that's been killed for us. It's all like museum pieces that the museum didn't want anymore because they're too moth-eaten or they look a bit weird. Or people have come to us and said, "Look, I've got this thing that I'm actually quite attached to, but really it needs to go in the bin." And we go, "Yeah, we'll have it. Yeah, we bring it here." We love it. It's a squirrel that doesn't look like a squirrel. Well, that's for us. There's a completely bald squirrel up there. I'll put a picture of him at some point. It's called Captain Mange. Control yourself. Come on. Serious conversation with an author.
Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna get through the rest of this without just dying laughing. Because you slay me. You literally do. My gosh.
I'm serious artist.
Yes, we're both very serious people that are very serious about what we do, and we're very professional. Very.
It is weird though, because I think people see me on stuff like that, and they go, "Oh, he's a bit zany and fun. I'll read his books." And then they read the books, and they're like, "Oh, this is not what I was promised." Because the books are quite sort of visceral. That's a good word for them. Yeah, they know what they're doing. They punch you in the stomach repeatedly.
Yeah,
and then bash you over the head with emotions,
and a little bit serious,
Yeah. My book Orbit calls the bunch Tide Child Trilogy, which we have to be very careful because it's a tongue twister to say. Literary fantasy, which I like that because it means you can feel a bit clever that you've read it.
Yeah,
you can tell you, yeah, so yeah, but that's literary. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
The other thing
instead of telling everybody, yeah, I read fantasy. I read literary fantasy.
Yeah, I actually read literary.
While you're sipping your wine, pinky out.
Yeah, that's actually. I write literary fantasy. Yeah, I think really what that means is I just make up a lot of words.
Sound fancy.
Yeah, just use the odd 2-syllable word, go a bit crazy. Sometimes a 3 one.
Just to see if your editor takes it out later.
Yeah, I did try with my editor because I've just started a new project, and I said, "Oh, I've been reading a lot of Cormac McCarthy. He does really interesting things where he just doesn't use punctuation at all." And I got that far, and she just went, "No." I was like, "But I could no." And I was like, "Oh, okay, fair enough."
But literary, sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to try something new. Clearly, it's not for me.
I want to be experimental. She's like, "No, but we want you to sell books." And so, well, fair enough. Okay.
So you can be experimental with your own self-published stuff.
Yeah, that no one wants to read.
So I know we've kind of done this thing before, but just give a brief overview of who RJ Barker is and how he got into writing.
Well, I was a musician for a long time, which I was very bad at, but because I was young and I'm quite full of optimism, to be honest with you anyway, but I had even more. I kind of thought being rubbish, I could get through it with really big hair, but I couldn't. And eventually I realized that. And I thought, well, I still want to do something creative. What can I do? And I'd always had a book with me, and I've always loved to read. It's a huge pleasure and a way of getting out of this world into another one. So I thought, right, I'm going to write books. Now, I'd not exactly finished school because I was going to be a rock star. So I had to teach myself how to write, which is probably why people say that I have an idiosyncratic voice. That's a polite way of saying I've no idea what I'm doing. I'm just completely winging it. It's, oh, they sound nice together. I'll put those words together. Sometimes you get notes like, can you remove the adjectives from this? And I'm like, I'm gonna have to Google adjectives. I don't know what they. But yeah, and then it took me a long time. It took 13 years of writing and not getting anywhere until I kind of hit it. But I'm not a quitter. I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm lucky that my wife she's an artist and she was very behind me and she supported me for like 6 or 7 of those years, and then it kind of worked out, which is good because there's nothing else I can do at all. This is it. If I'm not doing this, I'm out on the streets. That's me.
So I have to ask, so why not the entire 13 years? Was she just like, you know what, I can't anymore?
Well, I'd not met her.
Gotcha.
So we've been together. I don't know how it works out. And I was ill in the middle as well. So kind of like 7 years of being too ill to do anything.
Gotcha.
Which is rubbish. Don't do it. Just if somebody gives you the option of being ill for 7 years, just say no thanks.
Just be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm all right.
Next in line.
Yeah. So that never knows better. She was like, yeah, you can do this thing, do it, which is wonderful to have someone who you are with do that, and is also a really privileged position because not everybody has that. And I'm always astounded by these people that are going out doing a day job and coming home and writing, because I know how hard it is to do both those things. I couldn't do a day job and drive. I do one or the other. There's no in between.
Yeah,
just not coming out. Just so if you're one of those people, you're a hero on a level of like not like a fireman, but you're doing well. I'm impressed with you. What?
You're not a fireman, but you're like a hero. You're like mid-tier.
Yeah, mid-tier. Yeah. You don't.
You're like Hawkeye. You're there, and you're like part of the team, but you're like not really recognized.
Yeah. You can come in the hero club, but you have to sit near the door.
Yeah, you got to sit in the back of the room while we're like going through things. You can listen in, just don't talk.
I've got this pen, and it's really bad because we do a podcast with a few friends of mine called Ritopolis, and I get told off for this pen because I've got a habit of I sit there like this, guys. And I know if you have to edit this later on, that will drive you mental. Because Kate, who edits the podcast, just sends me these really angry letters saying, "Will you please put that pen in the bin?"
It's kind of
So
like
I did.
mindless, though, isn't it?
It is, and it's a nice feeling to like click a pen.
Yeah.
So last time we did the podcast, I just like every so often I just tap the microphone for him, just so he didn't feel like he didn't have a job to do.
How nice of you. That's so sweet of you.
I'm
You're very
for him.
thoughtful. I like that
I am.
about you. That's probably one of my favorite qualities about you.
I always thinking of others.
Absolutely. So as far as your writing goes, what has it been like your transition from your first trilogy to your second trilogy? I know we talked a little bit about it, I think the last time we chatted, but gosh, it's been what feels like forever. So I'm curious, was it a little easier the second time? Did you already have this series kind of like in the works as your first series was being pushed out?
It was in the works, but it's kind of weird because partly I'm very much I live in my head and I don't really think about the outside world. When I'm doing a thing, I'm doing that thing and I'm interested in that thing that I'm doing. But then there's like the gaps between it, because just before the Bone Ships came out, I found out that traditionally nobody buys fantasy about ships. It's just like, so yeah, people don't really like that much. And I was like, oh, that's nice to know. I could have done with knowing that maybe a year ago. But so it was quite, and I knew that people who'd read the Wounded Kingdom books, which are the 3 I did before, were going to be maybe a little bit surprised by the stylistic jump that these books have, because they're written in a different way. They're written in the right way for those characters. So they have a different voice and they're slower in that it's not as familiar as the world of the Wounded Kingdom. So it takes its time. I knew that some people probably find that challenging, and that's all right. But it's quite nerve-wracking saying all that, and then the moment of releasing the book, and you're like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? But people seem to like it eventually. And then the second one came out, and I was writing the second one. I think the second was the only time I've ever had like a bit of a crisis of confidence, because like halfway through I was just like, this is just appalling. This is the worst book I've ever written in my life. What am I doing? This is worse than the first book I ever wrote. And I sent it to my editor. And when it came back from my editor, she had very few comments on it. And I just looked through it and thought, oh my God, she's just given up.
She's actually putting in her 2-week notice next week.
Yeah. She's just like, no, I don't need this. Can't cope with it. But it turned out I was wrong, and everyone really liked it. And then the third one, I was pretty confident about the third one because it did what I wanted it to. And now we're starting the whole process again with a new thing that will be in a different voice, in a different world, and a different way of writing. So the people that are thinking, oh, it's going to be more Bone Ships, are not going to get that. And the people that are thinking, oh, quite like the Wounded Kingdom again, they're not going to get that either. So basically, I'm just serially upsetting my readers. I think that's my career plan.
Just to lose and gain readers as you go.
Yeah. Just change them around. Just different ones. But I think a fair few people do stick with me, and I think they kind of trust me now that maybe if you stick with me, we're going places. I think that's the sort of books I write, and maybe they're not. It's not like first chapter you're like, whoa. It's more by the end of the book you're like, oh my God, I need to know more about these people. And that's kind of this. I like books that have a kind of slow burn, so that's kind of what I go for. And because I've got a trilogy to do it with, I was talking to I think it was Anthony Ryan, whose recent book, what's it called?
The Pariah.
The Pariah. Yeah, I had Firestarter in my head. I don't know why. I think Anthony would make a good Keith Flint, actually. I might suggest that to you next time. I'm not quite sure I would take that, but I can't remember the point I was going to make. What was I talking about? You're
talking about writing trilogies?
Yeah, I was saying that probably it'd be a good idea if I wrote a first book that was just like whiz bang and like everything in it. And he said, you're going to do that? And I'll go, well, actually, it's a bit late. I'm 100,000 words into the next one. And it's no, I'm not. It's just, you stick with me for the third one and it all pays off. But it is a trilogy in that you get a payoff for each book, but
right,
they get bigger as you go along.
right. Yeah, because it has been very interesting because I feel like a lot of authors, when they write a trilogy, their next one has a similar tone or similar vibe, and they tend to, I guess, kind of stick with that same thing. Maybe they don't experiment as much with their second or third series. What was it about the way you've been writing? Why have you decided, I guess, to change so much in the way you write them? I mean, clearly it's working, but you always hear when they tell like musicians, like, stick with your bass sound for like a couple of albums and then maybe do an experimental. Like, don't do it your second album just because you hit it big.
Do different, but very like the last one.
Right.
That's kind of
just different songs, same sound.
Partly I've got an editor that encourages me. Jenny's brilliant. She's just like, you do what you want to do. Partly I get bored very, very quickly, which is why trilogy is good for me. Because by the third book, I don't want to do a new thing. So I want to do something different and sort of find different ways of telling stories and challenging myself and different people. Though thematically, I think I come back to the same thing, was about people struggling with who they are and trying to find somewhere to fit in. I think that's a big thing through all my books. But yeah, different voices are quite fun and sort of pushing you. Like the Bone Ships is in close third person, and naturally I like to write in first person. So that was kind of can I do this? And I really struggle with second person. So who knows what we might do in the next thing. I've always sworn I'll never write it, so it's quite likely it'll turn up in the next book. Because some of mine looks, the subconscious is going to say, "You're never going to do that, are you? Let's just see."
Right? Yeah, it's like a struggle with second person. So the next trilogy is in second person. So yeah, I mean that's the next one's like epistolary. The next, who knows what the next one will be after that.
That's right. Just let us. That's what I always have. I have the book I'm writing for Orbit. And then I have the book I'm writing for myself. And I've written like a lot of crime books that under a different name that are UK only. But I'm writing a fantasy book from the point of view of a mouse for myself. That I tell everyone about it, and they just do this face. And my agent is going, "Well, you do that if you really must." I understand. I understand you haven't.
Trying to make like the second coming of Redwall.
Well, it's a proper mouse. It's not like a humanized mouse. It's just a mouse. A mouse. It's like maybe a mouse if it was in Gormenghast. That was my kind of idea for it. And I keep sort of going back to it and pottering along and doing a bit, and then coming away and then thinking, who wants to read this? Nobody wants to read this.
A lot of people would probably want to read that. Yeah. Because it's written by you.
It might never be one of those things that I come back to every so often for like 10 years and then decided just go, no, I don't want to read that much. But yeah, that's my secret mouse project that I've not told anyone about, apart from like everybody I meet.
Nobody knows about, but everybody knows about because I can't not talk about it.
Yeah, because I'm terrible at keeping secrets. I think that's why Orbit, when they signed me from the next trilogy, they rushed out the fact that it's called the Forsaken Trilogy because they knew that I was going to give it away. We're just like, tell everyone about it now. As soon as he signed it, just tell everybody. Of course, he'll do it otherwise. So.
Right. It's like, please just get it out of the way. We can deal with it. We can deal with the fallout later.
Yeah. Maybe if we tell everyone, he won't talk about it. Oh.
Maybe they're onto something. It's taken 2 trilogies, but maybe they're onto something. So as far as the Tide Child Trilogy, because I have to say it slowly now because we have realized that it's a tongue twister. Can you tell people who maybe haven't had a chance to start book 1, The Bone Ship, what the series is about and maybe the series up to this point without any major spoilers? If that's even possible.
Yeah, but it's set in an archipelago, which is an island world, and it's kind of set on half of it, and it's ringed by storms. So what is on the other half of this world, they don't know. They don't even know if there is, that they just know that their world ends. And they build huge, like 17th century sailing ships, but they don't have any wood. So they build them from the bones of these massive dragons, which they've hunted to extinction. So now it's like a ever decreasing circles. Their ships are starting to fall apart. They're capturing each other's ships, cannibalizing them for their own. And thrown into this, we have Joran Twiner, who is awful. Where we meet him, he's trying to drink himself to death because he's miserable, and he's on a ship that's crewed by convicts, and it's meant to just take suicide missions. Then they're just there to die, and they've made him captain basically as a joke. They call it shipwife in this world because it's a matriarchy, so everything is seen from that point of view, and women have power, not men. Men are very much second-class citizens. And his captainship is taken from him by a woman called Lucky Mayos, who is the most decorated captain shipwife in their world, but she has been condemned for some reason. They don't know why. And she has a mission. She wants this endless war these two people have been able to stop. And she's determined to use this crew of ne'er-do-wells and slackers to do it. And for her own reasons, she makes Joran her second in command. And it is about him learning that you can be more than you think you can be. But tied into that are lots of other things about sort of power and what we do to people, and the idea of slavery. There's a race called the Galaim who are sort of avian, and they can control the wind, which is very useful if you're a sailing ship nation, and they're basically slaves. And you learn about them, and they're scared of them. The people are scared of these creatures. And Joran starts to have this friendship with the Galaim, which is more or less everybody's favorite character. It's really angry, and rightfully so. And then we move through him sort of learning he's capable and becoming capable, and sort of capturing the respect of the people he works with, and buying into this dream, which at first he thought was ridiculous, that you could ever have peace. And he just thought it was nonsense, because that's not how people think, because he's never been raised that way. Mm-hmm. And Lucky Mayos is this inspirational figure. And by the time we get to this book, it's all going very wrong. And maybe he's not in the place he thought he would be. And he's definitely not the person he thought he would be. And this is the end game of a revolution. And I think that's about as much as I can say without giving too much away.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people love the Galaim, and I know we've talked about it before, but like I think that's maybe part of why people love this series so much, is because just the sheer originality of it. You know, these ships made of dragon bone that are you don't think about, whenever you read books about ships, you don't think about them like deteriorating. They're just like, ships are ships, and they get destroyed, or they're just fine. They're just okay. They're just sailing around. Nobody has to do anything with them. Like they're always there. And then you have these, you know, wind changing creatures that, I mean, just win or lose, like that is they're pretty much, you know, the thing that will assist you. So what was like really the original idea behind the Galaim? I think you had a pretty funny story about like the idea and then how it came to fruition.
I don't come out of this looking good. I have a friend called Matt, and Matt, bless him, listens to me talking at him about my ideas, and he's a really useful sounding board. And I was explaining to him about the world of the bone ships and how it was all birds. There's no mammals. And there were these wizards that could control the wind. And we were playing badminton. And as we were coming out, he said, I love the idea of those bird wizards. And I was like, Matt, no, you weren't listening to what I said. They're wizards, and it's full of birds. That's what I was saying. And I went home. By the time I got home, I just had this brilliant idea of these bird wizards that just popped into my head. And I was like, oh, God. So next time I saw Matt, I was like, I've had this amazing idea about bird wizards. And he was like, oh, have you indeed? Really? What a shocker. But it's often like that. Like really, I should sort of pay him 5% maybe of my royalties, but
2.5.
yeah, 2.5. It was that. But it was weird how it was just sort of solidified, because but I started off thinking, well, that would never work, and by the time sort of halfway home, I was thinking, could I make it work? And by the time I got home, I was like, yeah, that would definitely work. That's brilliant, and I love an alien point of view as well, and the Ghalem does not see the world the same as everybody else. There's a scene, I think it's in the second one, where this is quite spoilery. So if you've not read the first one, don't just close.
Just mute.
Cover your ears. Mute the next minute. Where they accidentally make it an officer, and then it goes around inspecting the crew, and it's one of my favorite scenes because it's so comedic, and that it shows you how far this crew has come from where they were originally, when they would have tried to kill it for that, and so this time where it's all quite sort of fun and like, oh yeah, we'll humor it, though it doesn't think that. It firmly believes it's in charge, but it's believed that since the start. It's not. It's kind of just that, yeah, well, I always deserve this, because it is quite full of itself.
So I'm curious, when you first thought of bird wizards, what was the picture that you had in your head? Was it actually like of a bird with a wand, or was it actually what Tom Parker illustrated in the novels?
Yeah, it was nothing like what Tom illustrated, and it was a lot more. It was kind of like it was in Quetzalcoatl. Is that the name of them? There's the bird, and it has like claws on its wing elbows. Yeah, it's kind of like a big mixture of those with marabou storks, and quite sort of scruffy and nasty looking, a bit Skeksis as well, because I love a Skek. Who doesn't love a Skeksis? So somewhere between there, and then I do love Tom's picture though that he did for them. I think I've got one over here. Hang on.
Yeah, because I'm literally thinking of like, if somebody approached me with bird wizard, I'm thinking of like a robin with a wand. That's got like a scruffy look.
Yeah, it's not nearly that nice. That's Tom's pictures of the ships and some of the creatures, which are lovely.
Oh, she did such a great job.
Yeah, and then there's this picture of the Ghalem. I don't know if you can. Yeah. The right way up. Can you make that out?
Yeah, looks great.
There he is. It is, and and there should be a third Tom Parker picture coming, because he's working on it at the moment. But unfortunately, between the first and second book, he became really famous in Taiwan, where he lives. So he's kind of like, I don't know if I can fit you in now. Actually.
Oh gosh, he's got too big.
Yeah. Well, can I be bothered with you, Arjus?
I'm sorry, I know we're friends, but like,
yeah. Are you able
second fiddle now? Yeah. So you told me that this could possibly be a thing. When we talked before the chat, is JR going to make an appearance?
Yeah. Do people? Should we bring JR in?
You should probably bring JR in.
Yeah, there's JR. That's kind of, for those that don't know, my agent fulfilled a long time dream of mine, which was to have a Muppet of me made, and I totally did not expect it. It was a proper surprise. And here he is, JR Barker.
Just absolutely magnificent.
Yeah. What? No, we're not talking about your book. So here he is. He's infinitely cooler than I am, which is really annoying.
I mean, the sunglasses and everything, just
he's got like a t-shirt on.
I mean, come on,
my sigil and everything. He's kind of
So everybody's just gonna be doing podcast episodes with him now, huh?
Yeah, basically everyone has got in touch and said, oh, can we do an interview with the Muppet? I said, no. I know you like it. So yeah, but it's a big size now. You know, I've been surpassed. Yeah, it's like when my son, I taught my son to play chess, and we played twice, and then he started beating me. I saw that.
That's the thing about it, man. You give somebody an inch and they take a mile. It's just part of it these days.
But I'm partway through the next book, which is quite exciting and rude. Just rude. You can go back now. That's enough of him.
So yeah, so what's next on the horizon after our concluding Tide Child novel?
Because this has just come out in 2022, presuming it's not as bad as I think it is at the moment. Because I've just finished it. And when you finish a book, you always think it's rubbish. It's just the way it is.
Of course.
Because it's the first draft, and then you go through and you make it good, which is how writing works. Sometimes you go through a lot of times to make it good. And that's called The Forsaken, and it's very loosely based on Robin Hood, in as much as the Wounded Kingdom books were very loosely based on King Arthur, which is one of those things where you say to somebody it's based on King Arthur, and then think, oh, yeah, I can see how that works now, but it never occurred to me when I was reading. I think The Forsaken is going to be more obviously Robin Hood because bows play a big part in it, and Flying Squid, which famously was in Robin Hood as well, and massive trees and huge forests and a very odd world that works in a very idiosyncratic way. But I can't say too much more. Actually, I did a thing with my editor. She was encouraging me to say more. I was like, I can't. Don't know.
It's like,
what I'm doing.
Say more.
Yeah. So and that's what it's. Yeah, very loosely Robin Hood. The first book's quite sort of focused, which I quite like doing. Quite sort of a powder keg. I kind of wanted to write a book where you're building to one big moment. So it's kind of that sort of thing. Or maybe I'm lying. Maybe I'm just misleading. It's got to be edited yet, so it may turn out it goes to editor. She says, "Look, we need a lot more action in this. It can't be
too much of a
pages.
slow burn." We're
Yeah, we don't want 500 pages of people talking about squid. That's only you want that, Arjun. So, okay, I'll put a bit more in. But yeah,
to say so much as Matt was not giving credit for Bird Wizards, I would just like to say I thought of the squid thing years ago, and you and Adrian were gonna have a fight over it. Did that fight ever occur, and why was I not told if it did?
I do keep trying to tell Adrian that he owes me royalties for the octopuses in the second Children of book. Because I told him which book to buy to find out about octopuses. So he owes me mushrooms. That's what mushrooms play a big part in the book I'm writing now as well.
Okay.
That's mushrooms, squid, and massive trees.
And Robin Hood.
And
kind
Robin
of.
Hood. Yeah, kind of Robin Hood.
Both.
Yeah. Yeah. It works in a kind of weird way. And it's sort of more of a recognizable fantasy world, except with lots of weird stuff in it that doesn't fit in a fantasy world generally. And there's no metal, because I like to approach a thing by taking something that we're familiar with and then removing it and seeing how people cope. So there's no metal in this world. They don't have that technology, and they don't have wheels because they don't need them. And so it works in a slightly different way. There's no roads, because there's no need for roads if you don't have wheels and things like that. So it's quite fun.
I feel like we had the same kind of reaction when you were telling me about the bone chips originally, and I was like, okay. And then it ends up being a massive success. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take you whatever you say. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed it is. But yeah, I've because I messed it up first time. I was writing it and I was about well, I thought I had a lot longer than I did because my deadline was in March of next year. But it turned out that was my agent told me that, but he told me that in a dream. And my actual deadline was the end of October, which is just coming up this weekend. So obviously I sacked my dream agent and I put my actual agent on a warning if he doesn't keep his dream self under control in future. But it kind of, when you find out that your deadline is much nearer than you thought, it does kind of crystallize your thinking. And I realized that I'd written like 90,000 words, but I'd written part of book 2 in it. So I like cut back 30,000 words and then started again. So that's quite good because I've got book 2 started without meaning to, because everything is a silver lining. Always a silver. It's always, it's not that I lost a lot of words, and it's that, yeah, I've got book 2 started, so I'm good there. I can have a week off or something.
But you're gonna be like, I wrote 90,000 words and I forgot adjectives, so now I'm gonna go back.
Yeah. Oh, there's no verbs. Oh god.
Oh geez, I forgot the characters. Oh crap.
Yeah.
I've just been world building this whole time.
Yeah. There's a lot of people without names in it at the moment because it's hard work thinking up names. So I just put thingy.
Yeah.
And then it's really annoying because you can't do find and replace, because I should have learned like 7 books in to have like thingy 1 and thingy 2 and thingy 3, but no, they're all just thingies. I've got to actually read the entire book to put in names when I decide on them. But I never know where I'm going with the book until I actually finish it. I finished it 2 days ago and it didn't end how I expected. Sort of the finishing sort of page, things happened that I'd not actually planned for. So that I'll have to go, I'll put that in the edit, which is quite, once you know what's going to happen.
And antlers, you have to put in.
Antlers, yeah, that and antlers. And maybe, well, there's not much water in this one. So big sea dragons are a bit of a problem. They'd be a bit out of place.
Maybe the world dried up. Yeah, there you go.
It's a really strange world. I'm gonna have to work out why at some point, because people have talked about the world building in the bone ships and said sort of how good it is and how thorough it is, and then I ruin it by turning up and going, no, it's made it up as I went along. Literally, it's a whole book. Well, that seems like a good idea. But I think as long as it follows its own logic, once you set it up, you kind of start a logic train running.
Yeah.
If you follow that logic, it all works. And as long as the people act realistically within their world, then it appears very real. But you can't have them acting like we would. Like, it's why Joran is awful when you meet him, because he lives in a world where it's normal to be awful, and he's never thought of anything else. So he's acting in character. Got to be careful. I keep being serious and talking about writing. And
I know, you gotta stop being so serious.
Yeah,
people are not gonna be like this RJ guy's too serious. Can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I did an interview.
Lost his edge.
Yeah, I did an interview. And they asked, it was someone called Caroline who knows me. She's lovely, and she asked me nothing but serious questions about writing, and I was just like, I don't know how to cope with this. What do I do?
I need to go have a think. Can we postpone?
Yeah. I'm not used to people taking me seriously. It's not right. Have you ever met me? Come on. But yeah, it's really odd. And also when people do that, when people kind of drill into why you did things, you always find out that you actually do know. Because the difference, we talk about like people who gardeners or people who plan it out and things like that, and the only difference is that some of them are doing it in their conscious mind and some of them are doing it in their subconscious mind. But we all get to the end place, which is a book that you have to rewrite numerous times.
To everybody who hasn't had an opportunity to read this series, so again, Tide Child Trilogy. You've got The Bone Ships, which is the book of the month on the Broken Bindings website. I will have a link below the video so you can go check it out. It is got a little bit of a percentage off for you, and as well, if you want to use the promo code FANFI, FANFI, get an extra 5% off on that. And then book 2, Call of the Bone Ships, and then of course the brand new release, book 3, The Bone Ships Wake. So make sure to go check that out. And while you're at it, go check out the Wounded Kingdom trilogy, because it's one of my absolute favorites, and is what makes RJ one of my favorite authors ever. So definitely make sure you check those out. And JR is very And JR, it was very nice to meet you, but stop taking the camera. RJ, as always, it was a pleasure chatting with you.
It's been lovely meeting you. Always is. Yeah, but we're doing your TBR.
Yeah, we got TBR Con coming up in January, so make sure to tune in for RJ's panel at the end of January. We'll start promoting that in November. And RJ, best of luck with the new book. Congratulations again on another finished trilogy, and we'll do this again sometime.
Thank you. It's been brilliant. Thank you. Have a really good day. Bye.